Here's something almost every violinist has been told at some point. Keep your left hand in a frame. Fingers curved, hand steady, each finger reaching to its note independently, while the hand itself stays more or less in place. So now this can make sense for beginners. It gives you a starting point, right? A way to organize all your fingers on the fingerboard. But if you've been playing for a while and your left hand is feeling tight, especially with fourth finger, it feels weak or stiff, or like you have to fight to reach the string, then there's a good chance that this idea of the frame is the reason why. So my name is Joseph Arnold. I'm a professional violinist, an Alexander technique teacher, and the author of the award-winning book Soul Force. And today I'm going to show you why the left hand frame idea is actually a trap and what to think about instead so you can use all your fingers with freedom. All right, let's start with the fourth finger because that's where the problem shows up most clearly. So the pinky, right, is your shortest finger, and on the violin, it also has to reach the furthest from where your hand naturally sits, right? So if you've been taught that your hand should stay in a fixed position, a frame, then every time you need to use your fourth finger, you're actually asking the shortest, weakest finger to stretch the furthest distance while nothing else helps move it, right? And so let's think about that for a second. Your hand stays put, your first finger stays down or something, and then your pinky has to bridge that gap alone. So of course it's tense. Of course it hurts. Of course you'd rather avoid using it altogether if that's your, what's been happening for you. So here's the thing that nobody tells you. The problem isn't actually your pinky. It's not like a strength problem or a flexibility problem. It's not even a practice problem or a technique problem. The problem is the idea that your hand should stay in one place while your fingers move independently. So the frame concept treats your hand like a fixed structure, like a clamp sitting on the neck of your violin, with each finger operating independently within that clamp. But your hand doesn't work like that. Your body doesn't work like that. Nothing in human movement works like a fixed frame with independent parts. That's machine thinking, right? That's what a toy soldier does, right? This is what I call a mechanistic movement concept. This is an idea borrowed from machine thinking and imposed onto a living body. And in my experience, imposing concepts onto the body never works. The body is too dynamic, too interconnected, too alive for any fixed concept, especially a mechanistic concept, to be true in all situations. Now, I want to be fair here. Not all concepts are bad, and we do need them, but they all have their limitations, right? And when you're first learning violin, the frame gives you something to think about, to organize around, right? The problem is when a beginner concept becomes a permanent belief, when something that was a scaffolding turns into a cage, right? And this happens because of a deeper cultural pattern. We live in a culture that overemphasizes the left brain, the conceptual, the analytical, the mechanistic, linear way of understanding things. We want rules, we want positions, we want to break complex movements down into simple parts we can control. But your left hand on the violin isn't a collection of independent parts. It's a living system. It's part of a living system, connected to your wrist, your forearm, your elbow, your shoulder, your back, your whole body, your emotions, your mind, everything. So when you try to hold one part fixed while moving another, you're creating exactly the kind of conflict that produces tension. So we don't need to throw away concepts entirely. We just need better ones, and then to know when to let go of concepts entirely, when that's appropriate. So a new concept, instead of the clamp, instead of the frame, I want to offer you a new concept, what I call the web. So instead of thinking of your left hand as a frame, as like a fixed structure with independently moving parts, think of your entire body as a web, like a fancy word for this is tensegrity. If you've ever seen one of those, it's kind of this web-like toy with struts and elastic cables that holds it all together. So everything is connected through a continuous network of tension and support. In this case, tension means connection. And when one part moves, everything shifts subtly to accommodate it. So this is actually how your body works. When you place your first finger on the string, your hand, your wrist, your forearm, shoulder, all organize in a particular way to support that placement. When you move to the second finger, there's a subtle shift through the whole system. Third finger, another shift. Fourth finger, another shift. So each finger placement requires the whole arm and shoulder and everything else to reorganize slightly to support it. That's not a problem to fix. That's a healthy, efficient movement pattern. That's a live movement. And that's how the body works when you aren't actually fighting yourself. That's how it's supposed to work. So the frame concept says, hold still, reach with the finger. The web says, let everything shift to support where each finger goes. The difference in your fourth finger will be immediate. Instead of stretching your pinky alone across that gap, your arm, your hand, your forearm, your shoulder all move subtly forward and around and above to bring the fingerboard closer to where your pinky naturally falls. The pinky doesn't have to bridge the gap alone. The whole system reorganizes to close it. So I'm going to give you two experiments so you can feel this. The first is about supination. All right, and that's when you bring your hand like this. So when your forefinger needs to reach the string, instead of stretching the finger all by itself while holding everything else still, try this. Let your hand rotate very softly to supinate so that your palm opens towards the ceiling. And when you do this, notice what happens in your shoulder. It naturally pronates forward. So it comes forward and wraps around your ribs slightly to support the movement. So this all happens at the same time, right? So your hand goes and your shoulder comes around forward. Don't force it. It's a web. So think of like a spider web, all happening very gently, all at the same time. And so it's not something you force, not something you make happen, it's not something you do, it's something you allow. The shoulder moves to support the hand. The hand moves to support the finger. It's all one connected gesture. There's also, in addition to the pronation, there's also a lifting up that happens. So your hand's going to come up a little bit. So now try placing your fourth finger with that soft supination. Notice the difference. Like first, reach that pinky finger, and then let your hand and arm supinate, and your shoulder to pronate around and to come above the fingerboard a little bit. So it's, the whole thing shifts so that your pinky finger doesn't have to do all that hard work all by itself. The pinky finger can be very easy because the whole thing is moved to make it easy for your pinky. All right, so the second experiment makes this even clearer. So we're going to do one finger at a time. So bring your violin up and put your first finger on the fingerboard without your bow. And just instead of focusing on the finger itself, I want you to notice what shifts in the rest of your body as each finger goes down. So the first finger, just notice where your hand naturally settles, where your elbow is, where your shoulder is. And now your second finger, what's shifted? There's something shifted in the position of your hand, your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder. If you're really paying attention, you might notice the shift in your neck and your back. And in your third finger, okay, there's going to be a bit more of a rotation here. Your hand's going to start coming up over the fingerboard. There's going to be a different movement of your elbow and your shoulder. And then the fourth one, all right? So again, instead of reaching with your finger, everything else is going to move so that your finger can find its place effortlessly. All right, so your shoulder's going to wrap around, right? It's that thing, just a little bit. And then your hand's going to come up above the fingerboard. All of this moves to support your fourth finger. So what do you notice? Tell me in the comments below, what do you actually notice when you do this? Do you have any questions? Is this confusing? Let me know. All right, so your whole hand and arm need to follow where your fourth finger goes. You can't stay stuck in a position that worked for your first finger and expect your pinky to make up the difference. So one more thing that makes a big difference here is your thumb. A lot of violinists lock their thumb against the neck as an anchor point, kind of squeezing, death gripping the violin here. But if your thumb is fixed, your hand can't shift. Also true if your left hand is touching the side of the violin, and that's fine for the first three fingers, but as soon as you get to the fourth finger, that needs to shift. And so I often recommend putting your thumb underneath the neck So to make this whole process much more free and open, without the left side of your finger touching the neck of the violin. Okay, so yeah, then do this one finger at a time, again, slowly, and notice how your thumb shifts. Your thumb is going to rotate underneath the neck as well. Okay, so the left frame isn't wrong. It's good for beginners, the left-hand frame, but if it's running your playing, it's holding you back, literally. Your body wants to move as a connected whole. Every finger placement is a whole body event. When you let it be that, the tension doesn't have to be part of the equation. Okay, so if your left-hand tension is something you've been fighting for a while, I'd love to help you work through it. If you'd like, you can go to my website, soulforcearts.com, and click on the Book a Discovery Call button, and we can have a free call. 20 minutes, no pressure, and I'll give you an honest assessment of what's been happening in your playing. You can tell me your story, let me know what's been happening, and we can find out whether my approach will help you. Because I have this mission in life to be able to help musicians play more freely and get in touch with their soul force, be free from injuries and tension and performance anxiety. So I invite you to get in touch, book a call, and so you can learn how to play more freely. Because isn't that what you want? Isn't that what your music deserves? Okay. I think that's all for now. If you like this video, if you want more content like this, then click like and subscribe. It helps a lot. And keep an eye out. I'll have content like this coming at you every week. All right, see you next time.